I don't know about y'all, but I feel good about it. We're turning the page a little bit to some SEC football. We'll keep an eye on Brian O'Connor, the new head baseball coach at Mississippi State, and everything that he's doing. He's landing, players left and right, and they're going to have a hell of a team. Well, they're going to have a lot of talent next year, and I think they're going to get this thing back on track. But it's SEC football time too. I cannot believe that we'll have SEC media days. I mean, like 5 minutes after you get out of the 4th of July in Atlanta. I went a couple of years ago, College Football Hall of Fame downtown. Got to hear Jimbo. I got there the last day. I can't do the whole thing. That's way too damn long. But I stayed over, went to a Braves game. Braves were a client, AA affiliate here for 20 years. And went to Rocky Patel, Burned by Rocky Patel, great cigar bar and lounge. And so it's back there in Atlanta, unless I got my dates mixed up, which I don't think I did. I can't believe that happens, though. 4th of July is on a Friday. Then you kind of come back, shake those cobwebs off. You have 1 week, and then everybody's going to, Venables, Kiffin, Kirby Smart, Napier. All these guys will be going through Atlanta in the College Football Hall of Fame. So we are the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. This segment is brought to you by Hartley Equipment, zero-turn mowers, Skag, zero-turn mowers, Exmark, zero-turn mowers, Bad Boy, zero-turn mowers, all at Hartley Equipment in Gluckstadt on Church Road. We want to welcome in Oklahoma Sooner, Boomer Sooner Insider, Soonerscoop.com. Josh McQuiston joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Josh, how's your summer going?
Going pretty well, Bo. Again, last year we had all the jokes about, now it's OU and the SEC. Now I get to talk like an SEC veteran. So I'm really excited to be back, and know apparently what I'm talking about now.
Do you go to SEC Media Days?
No, we'll have some of our other staff that will be there. That is one of the few times a year I get to actually take a break. So with all the recruiting stuff and that's the coverage I do on that wing, that it allows me just a moment to breathe and not hear, I like Brent Venables a lot as a human being. Having to hear a 20-minute answer that could have been done in like 2 is sometimes tough.
That's so good. I love it. No, I get it, man. You got to. All of us got to take some time in the summer because once it kicks in August 10th through the Super Bowl, it is absolutely nuts. So we're visiting with Josh McQuiston, Oklahoma Sooner Insider. He joins us on ESPN 105.9 The Zone, and Oklahoma's coming off a disappointing year. We're previewing Oklahoma now because Ole Miss plays at Oklahoma October 25th. Okay, let's start with the quarterback position. And is it Mateer, the transfer?
Yes, John Mateer.
All right, tell me, is Jackson Arnold will now, I guess, start for Hugh Freeze in Auburn. Is this an upgrade? And what are your expectations of John Mateer, the Oklahoma QB?
I will start with, I'm one of those guys that hasn't given up on Jackson Arnold. I still think there's a ton of talent there. Again, I cover recruiting. I saw the guy a lot as a high school player. I know how gifted he is. Last year, there were certainly things Jackson will wish he could have back and could have done better. At the same time, the offensive line was in shambles, gave up 50 sacks last year. Half of them to Ole Miss and South Carolina. It felt like those two games were just, abominable up front for Oklahoma. The receiving core was just decimated by injury. So, there were things that were just well beyond his control. At the same time, when you talk about Oklahoma this year, John Mateer comes in. He continues basically on with his offensive coordinator. Ben Arbuckle was brought in along with him from Washington State. There's a lot of continuity there. I think Oklahoma did a nice job in the portal, finding a couple of guys that they think can help them up front. They return a lot of guys from last year's offensive line, which, again, you can look at that as good or bad. but at the same time, it's a lot of guys that played last year before they were ready. Now you kind of hope, okay, these guys had a little seasoning last year. They saw how serious it is in the trenches in the SEC. So I think there is some maturation that will happen there. To me, the biggest question is not John Mateer. It's the skill guys. What kind of big plays is Oklahoma going to get? Because I think you look at those great Oklahoma offenses, and everybody loves to talk about Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray and, Jalen Hurts. You just go down the list. People forget that part of what made Oklahoma so good is they didn't have to go on 12-play drives every single series. They had players capable of making plays on the outside. And I think that is, to me, the biggest question for Oklahoma. I think the offensive line will at least be solid. I think it's a question of, are they going to make enough plays on the outside to take some of the pressure off of the rest of the offense?
Who's your I know you fired both of them last year. Who's your offensive coordinator now?
Ben Arbuckle. He came in from Washington State.
With Mateer. Okay.
Yeah, he was Mateer's OC last year. He was actually Cam Ward's OC 2 years ago before Ward made the move to Miami. Now, obviously, Oklahoma's hoping that, John Mateer can replicate what Cam Ward was able to do last year at Miami. But, again, I think there's a really good marriage. When you talk to Ben Arbuckle, Bo, it's uncanny how much you feel like you're talking to Lincoln Riley. They are from very similar areas in this small town kind of region of Texas, came into Oklahoma at very similar ages. I think Riley was hired at 32. Ben Arbuckle's 29. You're talking about young coaches, and they both come from that Mike Leach tree. So there's a lot there that I think can work.
Okay. Josh McQuiston, Oklahoma insider on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Ole Miss at Oklahoma, October 25th. So it's been a disappointing, last year was disappointing. The year before in the Big 12, Venables put up a 10-2. You mentioned some of the things that plagued the offense. You went through two coordinators. You now grabbed a QB and OC from Washington State. That worked for Vanderbilt and Diego Pavia and that group, so it may work for Venables. How much better do you expect to be on the defensive side of the football?
I think they should be better. I'm very interested from a leadership perspective. When you lose guys like Danny Stutzman and Billy Bowman, a couple of NFL draft picks, of course, Danny was a first-team All-American last year, and really has kind of been, since Brent Venables arrived, kind of the focal point of that defense. He was the guy that rallied everybody, brought energy. He was clearly one of the leaders. Billy Bowman, an outstanding player, kind of more of a quiet leader, but definitely was a guy that other players looked to, and it was kind of a calming force for that defense at times. Now, that being said, their defensive line, Cole Kublik, I know, came out and rated them as the best group in the SEC, and I think that kind of surprised people. Oklahoma's been building this over a few years now. Jaden Jackson was one of the best freshman defensive tackles in the country last year. He returns. They've got, Dominic Williams, who was a huge portal win for them a couple of years ago out of TCU. He comes back. Grayson Halton's a really underrated guy on the inside. And then R. Mason Thomas, I would say probably secondarily only to Colin Simmons, who we know is just so extremely talented. And then obviously the freak of nature there at South Carolina. I would say those two are the only guys I would clearly say are ahead of him probably as edge rushers. So Oklahoma has a lot they can throw at you. They have a lot of bodies, a lot of depth. They can rotate in a lot of ways. I wouldn't say they're quite as deep as maybe Tennessee was last year, but I think that's where their strength comes from. They can just rotate so many bodies at you.
Okay, so how much I thought Castiglione, I didn't understand the extension. I think it was last summer, and y'all owe him a truck ton of money, kind of like Stoops in Kentucky. Didn't make a lot of sense to me, just because this is a work in progress. You're not sure if it's going to work type deal. So I think you're kind of in the spot where regardless of what happens, he's going to be there for at least a couple of more years. Is the pressure ramping up in Norman, Oklahoma around Brent Venables and whether or not we know he's a phenomenal defensive coordinator, top 5 in this century in the 2000s at Oklahoma and Clemson. But how do people look at him? Do you believe that he can develop into a really good head coach, and how much time does he have?
Well, Bo, I think you might be on the optimistic end of what it looks like. I think if this year doesn't show real growth, I would be surprised if Brent Venables is back in 2026.
Even with all that money on the contract?
I think there would be enough motivation there for some, because I agree with you, and I didn't make a lot of friends and around Norman when I said it when they made the extension. I thought it was unnecessary. I didn't understand the thinking behind it. I thought it tied them to someone who had a nice year in 23, but 10-2 and not even going to the Big 12 championship game, that's not what Oklahoma expects. That's not, that's not a rewardable situation. And it wasn't like he was up against it on a timeline. He still had multiple years left. He could still recruit. It wasn't that kind of deal. So I didn't love that extension either. And, last year only made it seem worse. So, again, to me, I'm not saying Oklahoma has to go and make the playoff or anything like that, because against this schedule, you've got to be realistic. You mentioned the Ole Miss game. From October 11th to November 15th, Oklahoma runs into Texas, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and at Alabama. That's just an insane run of football. So, you get a couple wins in there. You handle your business outside of that window. I mean, they closed the season with Missouri and LSU at home. Missouri was a game they should have won last year in Columbia. We're up 7 with the ball with 2 minutes left and somehow lost. So, in regulation, didn't even get to overtime. I mean, that's just a massive blunder. And I think that leads into the question you kind of asked about Brent Venables, where the game management, you're absolutely right. He is an elite defensive mind. He's an elite defensive coordinator. He's an elite motivator. He has so many traits you love as a head coach, but there have been times when game management, overall organization, seemed like a problem. And you just kind of wonder, is that going to keep rearing its head? Now, Oklahoma brought in Kevin Wilson, a longtime assistant under Bob Stoops, a guy that's been a head coach at Indiana, has been at Ohio State for years. So this guy's, very good, been around a lot of good people, and has the respect of Brent Venables. So I think he'll help with some of those things. He'll, on game days, kind of managing things, because Brent Venables will be the defensive coordinator. He's going to be doing 2 jobs. So he needs someone he trusts and someone he'll listen to kind of say, hey, okay, we need to look at this. We need to change this within a game. And I think that can kind of tether Brent, because I think at times he gets so focused on the defense, it can limit his ability to see things that are happening kind of on the broader scale within the game.
Okay. Josh McQuiston, Soonerscoop.com. Oklahoma Sooner insider, joins us on the Out of Bounds show and the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Again, Ole Miss at Oklahoma, October 25th. They also play Michigan at home, and they've got Mississippi State has a brutal schedule. There's a couple other teams, Florida, and Oklahoma is one too. This is a tough run. One thing, Oklahoma plays at South Carolina before they play Ole Miss, and Ole Miss plays at Georgia. Here we go. Kiffin and Golding, much better staff, much more accomplished. But now they lost a lot, so we'll see. It's a winnable ball game for Oklahoma, but they'll have to play well. And I'm like Josh, I'm not convinced Venables is head coaching material, and that's okay. You can be a great defensive coordinator and be awesome and make a ton of money, but Castiglione the extension and the guaranteed money at that time. I mean, you weren't battling anybody for him. This was a summer thing. It made no sense, Josh. Well, I don't understand why the administration thought they had to do that.
Well, and you're right, Bo. And I think that is so interesting, because when you look at it, it's not just, the okay, there wasn't a lot of people obviously clamoring to hire Brent Venables at that point. He had the 6-7 first year, which you could explain some of it, although I still think, I'm shocked how forgiving OU fans have been of that year when, it's like, oh, it was all just terrible. And, all they had was Dylan Gabriel and, they had more NFL players than just about any team they played. And somehow it was okay that they were 6-7. I'm like, I don't understand that from a fan base that has always been so demanding. But, that's fine. Like, again, and that's part of the appeal of Brent Venables is people believe in him. Like, they want to believe in him. After the way Riley left, Brent Venables came in, and I think OU fans just love him. And I get it. Like, he is a incredibly engaging person. He does all these things to better the university, to better the program. Like, there's things to like. But the other thing about that is he's also incredibly loyal. And, that's why he stayed at Oklahoma as long as he did. That's why he stayed at Clemson when there were multiple job offers for him through the years as a defensive coordinator. And so the idea that even if he was looking around, the idea that he was really going to go somewhere just didn't add up. Like, it was just one of those things like, I don't know why any of this is necessary. And now, again, if this season doesn't go well, it's going to cost Oklahoma.
Yeah. Okay, so you believe I'm looking here. You could go 7-5, and that may be enough to extend his career. But you could also go 6-6, Josh. And if things don't go well, you could go 5. So I'm looking here 5 to 7 wins, and that's cleaning up in the non-con with Michigan, which you should, at home. I think you should win. I don't think they've got a good head coach, but you've got a brutal stretch here. So, all right, 6-6. Do they pay him $40 million and move off of him, or $35 million, whatever it is?
I think they do. I think they would have to, because I think that's just, it's one of those things. And, I know the comparison is so often made, or not often, but I know OU fans kind of live in fear of it, of the Nebraska thing. Like, OU's going to become Nebraska. I think that's problematic for the people that try to make that point a lot, just because I think Oklahoma has better resources, better access to talent, a lot of different things. But at the same time, I think there is a point where you can only stay a non-factor for so long and live off the Oklahoma brand, but Oklahoma hasn't truly competed for a national title, and we're closing on a decade here. So, there is, 2017 with that Baker Mayfield team that really pushed Georgia was the last time that OU fielded a team where you could say, maybe that could happen.
Right.
So, you just can't live like that forever. And Oklahoma's seeing it in recruiting right now. They're landing some recruits, but it's not the guys that we're accustomed to seeing Oklahoma landing, where Oklahoma is a top 10 recruiting class just about every year. You can pretty much set your watch by it. That's not happening right now. So I think they are going to have to figure out something. Something has to change. And now they've added all this front office staff with Jim Nagy, from the Senior Bowl, and I love those moves. I think it makes a ton of sense. Oklahoma's trying to be very strategic.
Hold on. Is Nagy, we've had him on the show, former executive director of the Senior Bowl. Is he now your general manager or something?
That is correct. He's taken over as Oklahoma's general manager. He was hired in, I believe, late February, early March, and has, hired multiple new staff members. They've got a 7-8 man front office team now. They're running it like an NFL model. Like that is really what they're going forward with. And I think their belief is they want to have a strategy. They want to take some of the things off of the coaches' plate, where coaches, I think they felt like they weren't doing a great job in the portal. And frankly, with the exception of the quarterback position, you could pretty easily argue that is correct, that Oklahoma wasn't getting enough done in the portal and missing out on better players because the coaches just were having to do too much on their own accord and didn't have anybody kind of evaluating these things. And I think that's something Jim Nagy and his staff are going to focus on. But I think there's a plan in place. And honestly, what's amazing to me is OU can get to just 8-4 this year, find a way to steal a win or two that maybe is, a coin flip situation. They can get to 8-4. I think Brent Venables survives. And then I think maybe you really have some momentum going into 26 where they will return a ton. A lot of the guys that I'm talking about right now as quality players have a chance to return. Like Oklahoma could return a lot for 2026, and then maybe you start to build a little momentum.
Man, I think you almost have to go 4-0 in September.
Mm-hmm.
That's a win against Michigan and Auburn at home.
Yep.
Of course, you're going to beat Kent State. Then you go through your gauntlet. So if you can start 5-0, you pick one off in the gauntlet, 6, Missouri 7. Then you got LSU at home. Yeah. Guess you'd have to pick off Ole Miss or.
Yep.
Okay, Ole Miss at home, because at Texas Neutral Field, I don't see it, but y'all played out of your minds before and beat them. At South Carolina, maybe, but damn, Lenoris is pretty good. At Tennessee, I don't think so. At Bama, I don't think. Josh, that's going to be tight, man, to get to. I mean, that would be an unbelievable year if he went 8-4 with that schedule.
There's no question. I mean, and again, you're talking about Michigan. Like, Michigan is, 2 years removed from a national title, and for Oklahoma to hit that number, they almost have to beat Michigan.
Yeah. And Auburn at home.
Yeah. I mean,
God, y'all host Jackson Arnold. Oh, wow.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, you think he won't be juiced for that one?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Matier versus Arnold? I love that.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's going to be amazing. But, yeah, to me, I agree. If Oklahoma has any chance to get to those kind of numbers, they've got to get to Texas undefeated.
Yes.
There's no other way for them to get where they need to go, in my opinion. Now, they do that. Hey, again, there's some talent on this team. There really is. But I don't know about the belief. I wonder if it's, you lose to Michigan early, does the doubt start to creep in? Does that start to happen? But if they can get to Texas 5-0, and even if they lose to Texas, you go and say lose 35-28, you play a good game, you just get beat by a little bit better team. Fine. You still have some reason, okay, if we play like that against the rest of our schedule, they can beat anybody on their schedule. That kind of idea, then you've got something. But again, I agree, it's so tight.
Wow. This is going to be fascinating. Ole Miss plays in Norman, October 25th. I didn't realize Auburn goes to Norman in September. Jackson Arnold going back to Norman. Matier versus Arnold. That could be wild. I agree with Josh McQuiston. They got to go 5-0 if 8's the number. Josh McQuiston, thank you, my man. Have a great summer. We'll do this again before the season.
Sounds good, though. Always enjoy it, man.
Soonerscoop.com. He joined us on the Farm Bureau Insurance Guest Line. Bundle your auto and home and save with your local Farm Bureau Insurance agent. Go with the home team, as Jake Mangum likes to tell us. We're live in the Bank Plus studio. Good morning. Welcome in. Mudbugs is open last weekend, baby. Crawfish and shrimp. Mudbugs at the Reservoir, downtown Brandon.
Say, kids, what time is it?
It's 9 a.m., and this ain't no K show. It's the Out of Bounds Show with Bo Bounds.
All aboard!
As Mississippi's #1 morning show rolls on the Zone 105.9 and online at thezone1059.com.
All right. Well, good morning. Welcome into the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone ESPN. Brought to you by Pearl River Resort, super cool Geyser Falls, award-winning Dancing Rabbit Golf Club, and the amazing Philip M. Steakhouse. The table games and the sports book, pearlriverresort.com. I'm your host, Bo Bounds. I've got Straight Funk with me. He's got his Straight Funk jacket on today. And there's a couple of different ways that you can get in touch with us this morning. We would love to hear from you on we'll do a late out of bounds roll call for kind of some of you are coming in and, leaving in waves. We'll do an out of bounds roll call right now and let's go. Let's make it happen on the text line. The Golden Moon Casino text line, 601-885-3776. Are you listening on 105.9 The Zone, ESPN, or are you streaming the show? Where are you listening from? And, let's do this. What do you think the record's going to be for Ole Miss or Mississippi State? All right? If you need me to go through the schedule, I will. We went through it yesterday in the 9:30 segment. That's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Search Out of Bounds with Bo Bounds. We did, 20-something minutes more on Ole Miss, but because they're really good right now and they're interesting. And Lane's one of the best coaches in college football. Who knew years ago? But give the guy credit. He grew up and matured, and he's just damn good as a head coach and offensive coordinator. Top 10 in both. And you could argue top 5 in OC. For sure. Well, some of you, I guess, would maybe argue top 5 head coach. Now that Harbaugh and Saban and some of the guy, Urban's not back, I mean, there's not as much juice in the head coaching ranks as it was just like 10 minutes ago. But either way, if you've got top 10 head coach, top 10 OC, you got a chance either every Saturday or most Saturdays. But we went over the schedules and kind of what we thought. Trap games are always, fun to talk about. In fact, Oklahoma may be a trap game for Ole Miss because they'll be coming off getting way up at Georgia. They just beat Georgia. That was a big deal. And then they let their guard down 2 weeks later and lost to Florida. I think that's right. I think they took a week off, which was amazing to me, and went down to Florida and lost after the huge win, getting back into the college football playoff. And the win, dominating Georgia at home, making Carson Beck look like what he is, which is easy. Jackson just said trash. Let's say he's just a solid plus QB.
Okay. I'll let you say that.
All right. Twitter X at Bo Bounds. And the Mango Cart. God, it's good beer. Mango Cart caller line is 601-707-3750. 601-707-3750.
It's probably the most funnelable beer ever.
Mango Cart?
I mean, there's a strong chance of it.
Okay.
I mean, that thing would go very well.
Golden Road Mango Cart.
If I could just get the tap, pull the tap back, put the funnel on the tap.
Okay.
Then we really see what we're working with.
Okay. It's Jackson's favorite beer right now, Mango Cart. And we've got it on tap here in the studio. We're not drinking it right now. I'm drinking coffee with cinnamon in it.
Sure.
But Yeah. So we talked Ole Miss and Mississippi State. We want you to text in on the Out of Bounds roll call. Here's the text line, 601-885-3776. Are you listening on radio, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN, or streaming? Where are you listening from? And I need a record on Ole Miss and Mississippi State in football.
Simple.
State, Earth Smart Lawn from Sealy, Texas. Barry from Sealy, Texas.
Barry.
State may win 4 games. Maybe.
I hear.
Levy isn't the answer. Let's see. The gas station in Bolton has an amazing plate lunch. The burger spot I'm talking about is the corner right before Maine.
Yes, they do.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know what he's talking about. He's talking about he's going back to that Clinton stuff.
Oh.
We asked about the best burger joint in Clinton yesterday.
Oh, okay.
There is one tucked off in Bolton or on the way.
Oh, I gotta hit that at some point.
Man, Bolton's all right.
Robert, Tillatoba, streaming on the app. MSU 3-9, Ole Miss 9-3, maybe 10-2. 10-2 equals 7th or 8th playoff host. I still think Jackson needs to do SEC media days and have a 5-minute interview with all 16 coaches throughout the week. I think Georgia will be a big disappointment this year, going 8-4 as my bonus pick. All right. Georgia plays Marshall, win. Austin Peay, win. At Tennessee, toss up.
Sure.
Alabama at home, toss up. Kentucky at home, win. At Auburn, toss up. Ole Miss at home, Georgia will be favored. Florida on a neutral. No, where did that game get moved?
Ole Miss, Florida?
No.
I'm sorry.
The cocktail party.
Cocktail. Oh.
Because they're doing
yeah,
renovations
yeah.
Isn't it at Jaguar Stadium?
Is it?
I think they moved it, and maybe financially, but I'm pretty sure the cocktail party's getting moved. Y'all check on that for me. At Mississippi State, win. Texas at home. Ooh, for Georgia. Georgia plays Bama, Ole Miss, and Texas at home. Remember last year they had to go to Bama, to Texas, to Ole Miss. They get them all at home. They beat Texas last year. They lost to Bama and Ole Miss away. Then they play Charlotte, dub, at Georgia Tech. I think they'll win. I know they went into 7 or 8 overtimes last year. But so that's one. They got some swing games, toss-up games.
Whoa. Cocktail party's headed to Atlanta next year?
Okay.
That's next year. It's in Tampa this year. But, yeah, I mean.
Tampa this year.
So the Buck Stadium, yeah. Raymond
Nice.
James, yeah.
Raymond James
Sure as heck
Stadium.
is. That, then to the A?
Okay, I like it. So Tampa this year,
Home game.
cocktail party. And then Atlanta for Georgia as more of a home game next year.
Right?
Mhm.
Wonder if that'll flip any, or if they'll just keep it in the A.
I don't know.
I mean, Atlanta's a good spot, I guess, for both, right? Not really. I mean, it's still a home game for Georgia, isn't it?
Yeah, but Florida will have plenty of tickets.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been to the cocktail party. They split it.
I was about to ask.
And
did they do that?
it's blue and orange on one side
Cool.
and red and black on the other. I mean, the stadium is split down the middle. Now, I don't know if it'll be like that in Tampa, but I do expect it to be like that. Well, I don't know about Atlanta either. That may be a little skewed on both, maybe 60-40.
Yeah.
On the two. Okay. Let's see what else we have here. Mississippi State will go 5-7. Ole Miss 9-3. Listening from the original home of the Manghams in McGee, Mississippi.
Boys.
All right. That's Paul. I guess that's Paul Mangum. T.O. in Atlanta, Ole Miss is going 11-1 with a road loss to Georgia, but will avenge the loss in the SEC championship. That's not happening. But I love, I love that. All right, I got some more coming in. We'll be back in just a second. Show is brought to you by the Shrimp Po' Boy at Martin's in Livingston. Good morning. Welcome in. Out of Bounds. I'm your host, Bo Bounds. We had a big football segment yesterday, 9:30. It's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Search Out of Bounds with Bo Bounds. Thought it went well. And hope you did too. If you missed it, go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Search Out of Bounds with Bo Bounds. Our Spotify is popping now. I should have promoted that more, but we've gotten into it. So we are on Spotify. The podcast is on Spotify. Search Out of Bounds with Bo Bounds. Good morning. Welcome in. Woo! ESPN 105.9 The Zone. And the show is brought to you by our friends at the Mississippi State University College of Business. Their online MBA is popping. You get to go at your own pace. 10 courses. They've had men and women go through where they're out of state, out of the country. You get to sync up with people in the business world. Very, very valuable. The Mississippi State University College of Business online MBA program is there for you. And 10 courses, very interactive. And Dean Scott Graw has done an amazing job at the College of Business at Mississippi State University. Super active. He's out and about. He's talking to alums, potential students. My kids know him. There's a great vibe there. I've mentioned that it's just a super cool story. He played college baseball at Iowa State, was recruited by Ron Polk, and wanted to stay closer to home, which makes sense, and all of a sudden becomes the dean of the business school at Mississippi State. And they landed a good one. So they've got a lot of momentum. And check out their online MBA program powered by the Mississippi State University College of Business. And 10 courses, and you can take it from anywhere, right? You can be in Atlanta, and you can be in Nashville, and you can be in Mobile and Hattiesburg or Gulfport or Biloxi. The Mississippi State University College of Business online MBA program. Check it out today. We're live in the bank. We need to get Dean Scott Graw back on. Yeah. He can share some of the things that are going on. He's heavily involved in fundraising too, which is super smart. And we'll have him on. We'll talk a little. I know he's fired up about that baseball hire. What I love is you'll see Scott Graw at baseball games. Nice. And, of course, he played college baseball. He loves it. Now you got Brian O'Connor in Starkville. He's shared that he's blown away with the atmosphere in the stadium. It's a great recruiting. It's a great way to recruit students, too, and alums back to the campus. And when you're good and it's packed, it's even better, and it will be next year. So that's something to think about, too. But check out the online MBA program, MSU College of Business, top 50, top 40 for veterans, and 10 courses, and it's a way to network and sync up and get better and parlay it into something bigger and better as it can open doors for you and your career. The online MBA program at the Mississippi State University College of Business. All right, we are rolling here. Y'all are getting into this SEC football talk, so I'll just continue on. We've got Delta Dog on the Dancing Rabbit Golf Club text line. He has Ole Miss going 8-4, Mississippi State going 5-7. If Lebby can get to 5-7, things will settle down. People can exhale, and you can dive back in the portal. You know he's going to do well at quarterback and offense and so on. We'll see what they can do on the defensive side of the football. That was the worst in the trenches team I've seen in my lifetime on both sides of the ball. They went and signed a bunch of players and 30 players in the portal. We'll see how much better they are. Again, it's about the primitive piece of the puzzle with football. Can you go get a foot, a yard, a couple of yards? Can you give your quarterback another half second? Can you give your tailback just a little bit more room to boogie through? And those are the things that you'll be and on defense, can you put any kind of pressure?
Right.
Any kind of pressure on the quarterback? because you had too many guys who they dropped back and they were just sipping on a Dr. Pepper, kind of grazing on some nachos, and then they were finding, a slot receiver or a tight end wide open. But that's optimistic. I mean, if you thought T.O. was optimistic, which was funny, him saying Ole Miss was going 11-1.
Right.
Delta Dogs but that's it's June. June and July or August for optimism. I talk about it all the time. You're at the lake, you're at the beach, you're in the mountains. You start looking at the schedule. You have a beverage, and all of a sudden you add a win.
No doubt.
It's what we do as sports fans. I mean, you got to have some hope and optimism, except with the federal government.
Yeah.
All right, Bob weighs in. MSU 5-7. The Bears 7-5. Man, if Ole Miss goes 7-5, their fans, even though Lane is like the man, and walks on water because of the insane success he's had while being in Oxford.
Oh no,
7-5 will not land, and they could go 7-5. I don't think they will, but if they go 7-5, that will not land well. Now, are they going to take a step back talent-wise? Yes. Could they match their record? Possibly. It'll take some of the right things happening. All right, David 3, listening in Ridgeland on 105.9, State 4-8, Ole Miss 8-4. They'll take a step back after losing Dart and that defense. Well, I mean, Walter Nolan, first-round pick.
That's so many.
Trey Amos, NFL. They had a bunch of guys on the defensive side of the football that weren't just good, they were older. They were old and good on defense. They won on defense last year. They held Oklahoma to 12 points, Mississippi State to 12 points, Georgia to 10 points, unless it was it 28-18? I mean, 28-10 or 28-18? Anyway, they held, Golding held teams to 20 points or less left and right. Remember when they lost to Kentucky? Kentucky only scored 20 points. Yeah. It was the offense that let you down. At Florida, it was the offense that let you down. Against Kentucky, it was the offense that let you down because it was just Dart. When Trey Harris got hurt, you didn't have the dudes at the skill positions. So Dart would make a great play. Lane could still scheme Jordan Watkins open or somebody else, but you never really landed. Y'all know this. You never really committed to a tailback, running back. And when you did play Bentley, he was pretty good. He obviously had the huge run in the Egg Bowl that broke it open. He had I think one or two maybe against Georgia, and he's not elite by any stretch. And after Harris went down, it was basically the Dart show, and Kiffin's so good he could just scheme some things open. And Dart ran a lot, and took a beating, but he's big, physical, tough, phenomenal athlete. And so on. Earl in Madison said Bob's a dumbass. All right, well, Earl, we need to hear what your record is. Mr. DX, great guest this morning, guys. It's fascinating how things with Venables will play out. I tell you what's fascinating is that Joe Castiglione, athletic director at Oklahoma, and Mitch Barnhart, athletic director at Kentucky, bid against themselves and offered both of their coaches new contracts with $40 million buyouts. Neither one are top 10 in the SEC. I mean, Smart, Kiffin, DeBoer, Kelly, Sark, Napier. What do I do with Beamer? I think that's the question because he's done a much better job than we thought. SEC Insider Hit coming up next. Good morning. Welcome in. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys.